Let's bring in Paul Mauro now, retired NYPD inspector and a Fox News contributor. Paul, to me, the most amazing thing in all of this is that the suspect is still alive. What do you think?
Yeah, I concur that is quite surprising. I mean, that has to be part of the security review that occurs here. We have to see, did they shoot at him and miss, or did somebody tackle him? I see disparate reporting on that. But the fact that they were able to apprehend him without shooting him, without him being injured, is surprising to me. Once I heard that he was down, I assumed he had been shot. So now it becomes a prosecution. The event is a crime scene, just like any other, and we'll have to see what develops. And that's why, of course, things like the manifesto that you referred to, the search warrant at his house, the interviews that have to occur now, all of those things are where the FBI, who will have lead on this case, all those areas are going to be delved by them as they begin to put this prosecution together relative to not only the charges that Judge Janine elucidated yesterday at the presser, but any subsequent charges that may be brought.
Yeah, it's the reports are that 4 or 5 shots were fired out there in the lobby, and it's not clear yet whether he fired all of them or whether the Secret Service fired some in response. As you say, that's all going to be part of the ballistics.
Absolutely. I mean, you're really going to want to see here what he fired, what they fired. Reportedly, he had not only a shotgun, but a handgun as well. According to the video I've seen, doesn't look like the handgun came into play. And so they know all that already. That'll be part of the security scrub that they do. And look, John, let's be frank. The Secret Service stepped up. You know, they were there. They stopped this. They put themselves in harm's way. You're never going to hear me disparage an agency wherein the members are willing to put themselves between the president and a bullet. God bless them, and we need them. Yeah. But that said, we have to be very, very serious and practical about reviewing what occurred here. At the end of the day, this person was able, inside the hotel, to assemble a long gun and then charge the magnetometers towards the building, towards the room, rather, where the event was occurring. I think for a lot of Americans, that's a little too close for comfort. And the fact that he checked in the day before seems to represent maybe some slippage here. So we need a real honest-to-God review here. We have to be very honest with ourselves. Are there still holes in the service protocols between Butler and this? And as you mentioned, the ballroom, I would suspect now, will be built as it should be. The idea that America can't have a sort of national event space for the president is preposterous. And why the judges are involved in this thing, I can't understand, and I'm a lawyer.
Yeah, a lot of people are wondering the same thing, Paul. The president obviously wanted this dinner to continue. He later said at the news conference that he was frustrated that one nut job caused an early end to the evening. Listen.
That all of these people would have to leave, just for what? For one nut, for one guy that is really, I mean, look, he's a very disturbed person. So I really wanted to go, and I really wanted to, but the protocol was no. And, once those doors were open, that room was sealed. And once the doors were open, because people were pouring in, and there were police and they were Secret Service, and they poured in a lot of them. But once those doors are open, it breaks the seal. Mm-hmm. And when they explained it, maybe it's possible somebody, if it were more than one person, somebody could have come in. And but I really wanted to do it that night, even if we stayed late into the night. But we did the right thing, and we came back to the White House.
Sad to say, it's the third attempt on his life, and he sounds rather matter-of-fact about these things, Paul.
Yeah, amazing that we have a president who now has the reflexes from 3 attempts on his life to speak about him being targeted sort of so prosaically. I think one of the things this puts the lie to is the idea that somehow or other Donald Trump is some out-of-control fascist who does whatever he wants, whenever he wants, because he was willing to bow to the importuning of the Secret Service to please don't go back into that room, and he was willing to listen to them. As he said, it broke the seal, so to speak. There's a protocol. Not only would there be safety concerns relative to a co-conspirator, a device potentially, that kind of a thing, but as I said earlier, let's remember, this is now a crime scene. And you don't know how far it's going to extend. Some of the shots he got off, who knows where they went. You got to keep all that sacrosanct because we do now have a prosecution, and you want to make sure that not only do you get the main shooter on the heaviest charges you can and you button the case up, but you want to see, is there anybody else involved? Was there somebody else in the room? And I know people may say, oh, that's being fanciful, but look what happened here. And if you had posited this a day or two ago, people would have shaken their heads and said, not possible, not after Butler, not after Ryan Ruth.
Yeah.
Well, it is possible. It did happen, and you have to take it seriously.
And there was an awful lot of the administration in that room, really not very far away from the gunman. Paul Mauro, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, John.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.